filmmakerwithme.com.
My name is Anat Zalmanson-Kuznetsov. I'm a filmmaker. I just showed my documentary film Operation Wedding, which is not about a wedding. It's about how my crazy parents tried to hijack an empty plane, to escape the Soviet Union. They couldn't at that time. People could not leave the Soviet Union. They needed to have exit visas, and then they would be refused. So they decided to buy all the tickets to a small plane and escape to Israel. But they got caught, charged for high treason. My father received death sentence, my mother 10 years. But thanks to this event, the whole Soviet Jewry struggle movement started in the 70s, which became the most successful human rights movement because actually people got out and Soviet Union does not exist anymore, and today everybody can get out of Russia. Oh yeah, the pilot issue is it is like the only issue, because they did buy all the tickets to the plane so no people would be hurt, but they were still two pilots on the plane, so meaning they have to do something with them, but they swore they will not hurt anyone, not even one bloodshed, not even one punch. They just plan to basically tell them, look, we're like more people than you are, and we want to take this plane, and they want to take them out the plane. They bought a tent, they bought sleeping bags and vodka. So yes, and also they had a nurse that planned to give them a tetanus shot. But once again, they knew they would be caught. It was obvious. The KGB knew about it all along. They never thought they would even get to this stage, and they didn't. The pilots were also in the trial testifying, and they said also that they would probably agree, and they don't think anything bad would happen to them. So well, I don't exactly go into the story in the film, but the original plan was to take a plane of 64 seats. And the original plan was from Leningrad. It was not with my parents, so they had 50 people and they missed another 10, and then they came to Riga to meet my mother because they knew her, because my mother, she was distributing Hebrew books. So, and then they asked her, do you want to hijack a plane? And she said yes. Okay. And then they said, do you have like 10 more people? She said, of course. She had her newlywed husband, she had her brothers, and they told their friends. All the Riga group said yes, but then the group in Leningrad decided not to do it. So then they changed it to a smaller plane, but this stuff is not in the film, actually. Yeah. My parents got divorced when I was 1. I was born 10 months after my father was released, and I look exactly like him, so no need for DNA test. Look, they knew each other only 10 months before they were arrested. Yes, they knew each other, they got married really quick, and then they tried to escape. So, and then they didn't see each other for 9 years, except from the trial. And they're very different people as well. And my mother was released 5 years before my father did. They're very good friends. They completely trust each other if they need something. There was no trial in the divorce. It was a very easy divorce. I never heard anything bad from. They really respect each other. It was very hard. I was really worried about taking my mother back to Russia and to Latvia. When we filmed it, she was 71. I was worried I was putting too much on her. And so I was more stressed than she was, actually. She didn't want to go at the beginning, but I told her, Mom, you have to go. It's important for my career, because the film is not going to be as good if we don't go to Russia. And she really didn't want to go, but my mother, she would do anything for me. Well, I grew up with as I was growing up, I kept hearing, your parents are heroes, your parents are, everywhere I went, I only felt the glory of it. I never thought about the price they had to pay. When I started working on the film, I realized the price they had to pay, and I think I cried every day, probably in 4 years, every time I was working, because every time I see the archives and when I think about it, it brought me and my family a lot closer together. I think, there is no bigger tribute than what I did to my parents, that not only that I made a film about them, but that I show that I understand them. I wanted to show the audience my parents like I see them, not just a history lesson of people sitting and talking and telling about the past, but to show their characters. My dad with the vodka and the cigarettes, and my mother with her dancing and painting. Yeah, I think my mother's most heroic moment was actually not in the trial, even though she said next year in Jerusalem in Hebrew, and not in the hijacking, but actually 4 years later. She thought she'd have 6 more years in prison, and she didn't know that she's about to be released because of a secret spy exchange with Israel, which was a secret. She only found out about it 15 years later. And the KGB came to her and they said, well, if you say that you're sick, we'll let you go. And she said, no, I will never ask you for anything. And then, and I asked her, how can you, what do you care? Just say you're sick. I mean, because you have 6 more years, how can you? And she said, no. First of all, she hated them so much. And when my mom hates, doesn't happen because she's a lovely person, but if she hates someone, that's real. And then, and also, but I think she have very good instinct. And instinctively she felt like she doesn't need to ask them for anything, which was right because they had to let her go anyway. Oh, they had to let her go because they had a deal with Israel. Israel gave them the Soviet spy and they had to let Silva go. But they wanted to say, we're releasing her from humanitarian reasons because she asked, because she's sick. But my mother didn't know that. And a week after that she was released anyway. Yeah, and she didn't know about the prisoner exchange until about 15 or 20 years later. So I decided I want to make a documentary about my parents because I realized that there are lots of 5 or 10 minute TV segment about this story, but no full length film about this. The only full length film was made in 2009 in Russia. And obviously that film is not good. So I wanted to make a film. Sorry? Well, it's not honest at all. I mean, it says, not only it says my parents are terrorists, but it completely distorts the fact. Like it says they went to hijack a plane dressed as bride and groom. They did not. No one goes to hijack a plane dressed as a bride. But other stuff too, like names were wrong, dates were wrong. They didn't really care about what happened. They just wanted to tell a good story, I guess. I don't know why. And they call my parents terrorists, which is extremely annoying. So I decided I want to make this film, but it took me a really long time to actually do it. Because make a film, it means 4 or 5 years of your life. In the first few years, you're not gonna make money. And it's kind of hard to take this step. And then I had a car accident. And it was a pretty big one. Not my fault, by the way. Someone bumped into me. But as I was spinning, and I was spinning so fast that my car took out a traffic light from the pavement. And I must say I only started the drive after, so he bumped into me that hard. I was sure I'm going to die. I was so sure because it was so, like, the lights and the speed, it was so crazy. I couldn't see myself being alive after that. And I thought, well, my body was screaming and hysterical, but in my head I thought, how is it possible that I'm going to die now? I didn't even make the film about my parents. And then I was fine. The car was a total loss. I was fine though, and after 2 weeks I started working on the film. I realized that if this is the last thing I think about before I die, then this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm just spending my life doing stupid things, so I have to do something real. Well, first of all, my parents were in a Soviet time. For them to speak about romantic stuff, it's like not. They don't understand how is our love story has anything to do with the story. This is nothing. They don't understand. But actually, people love the scene that my parents are forced to talk about their love at the BBC radio interview. So I don't know a lot about how they met. All I know is that my father, he arrived to Riga. He participated in one of the parties of like underground Zionist parties in the forest, and he saw my mother. I know they were immediately in love, and he just moved to Riga to be with her, and they got married 6 months after. But I don't know anything about. Oh, I know that my mother, she said when she saw him, she thought he was Russian. She was surprised, what is he doing there? But then he smiled and she saw, oh, he's Jewish smile. That's the only thing I know about the story. Yeah. Well, I would say 95% of people love this film, so I'm really grateful about that. We also showed it in Russia, in Moscow, in a festival called Art Doc Fest, which is the largest documentary film festival. However, for example, we just showed it in Latvia. We had a premiere in the prison, by the way, where we shot it, with the Israeli embassy. It was amazing. And then one of the parliament member, he posted something about the film saying you have to see it, it's a very good film. And then Russians from Russia start to say no, they were killers, you know, they would kill people if they. And then I got a message from people from the Israeli government say don't be upset about it. The guy who said it, he's a historian that denies the Holocaust and always try to show the KGB. But a lot of people, like sometimes someone wrote to me, I saw the Russian film, so I know the truth. They actually wanted to kill the pilot, but I told them no, the pilot, it was his idea. So I saw the Russian film and they trust the Russian film. The Russians, they're known for for distorting the truth. They don't really. So this is what they've been doing. So I'm actually now working on a feature film based on this story, which is okay. It's the same story, but it's completely different. We have flashbacks to childhood, etc., and it's very good script. So I'm now going to Los Angeles for a screening of the film, and I have some meetings. So hopefully it will go well. Oh, I'm not going to be in the feature film. I'm not born yet. So the feature film is just going to be about what happened to them until my father was released. So they can hire just a baby when I'm born. I don't know. They don't need me. We definitely, I think we're aiming for like Natalie Portman maybe to play my mother. But we haven't talked with her yet, so we have to ask. I think she would be good for that. I think she would like it. So if you wanna see information about the film, where we're going next, because right now I'm touring the US and I'll be back also in February and March, and you can see the trailer and you can see lots of other stuff and like some scenes from the film that I released a little bit. So you can visit operationweddingdocumentary.com with dashes in the middle, or you can just Google Operation Wedding. That's also the first thing that will come up. It's kind of easy.
Anat, thank you so much for sharing your story here at the Chevra in Philadelphia. I know that you inspired so many people. We can't wait to see the feature film when it comes out, guys. So check it out. The website is on your screen. Thank you for your support. Thank you to the Chevra. And Anat, thank you again.
Thank you, Whitney.
Bye, everybody.